In October, I'm hosting a course on Beowulf, the oldest epic poem in the English language, composed sometime around the 8th century AD and preserved by an Anglo-Saxon monk or scribe in the 11th century. It exists in a single manuscript that's over 1,000 years old. But long before it was written down, Beowulf was a song to be sung or chanted aloud in the ancient halls of gathered kings and princes. And for this reason, this course is going to pay special attention to the poetry of Beowulf. And this is important because people usually talk about Beowulf as a great story or about masculinity or as a historical document that tells us what the North Germanic or Old English culture was like. And it seems like some people often forget that Beowulf, first and foremost, is a poem. So the lectures will introduce you to the music, the rhymes and rhythms, the weird metaphors, and the very unique imagination of the Anglo-Saxons. We'll learn about the meter, but we'll also learn about kinnings and how alliteration and assonance and consonants are working and how the poem fits together as something that's just that comes alive when you hear it. So over the course of 4 weeks, we'll be reading through the long poem, and we'll meet twice a week. We'll be reading through Seamus Heaney's translation by the Norton, so you can find a copy of that and read along with us. I also have a few free online versions that are in the public domain that I recommend if you can't get a hold of this book, but it's going to be okay because the lectures will allow you to follow whatever translation you're reading. The lectures are hosted on Mondays at 6 p.m. Eastern Time, and then I host 2 guided discussions twice on Wednesdays. They're the same discussion meeting, but this is to accommodate international students. One is at 12 p.m. Eastern Time, and the other is at 6 p.m. Eastern Time. So these are available to all paying members of the Versed community. Some folks like to attend these live meetings, others like to catch up on the recordings on their own time, which is fine because there's the course chat room where other readers will engage with you and exchange reading notes and share essays and ask questions apart from the scheduled readings, so you'll still be able to engage on your own time. So this is really a course that is suited for people with busy schedules who want to learn more about literature. The other thing to note is that no prior knowledge is necessary. You don't have to have taken a course on Beowulf before. That just come with an interest in reading this very old poem. And although it is an ancient poem, Beowulf attends to the same questions that engage the human spirit today. Questions like, what does it mean to live bravely? How should we confront the hostility of this world? And how can one grow old with dignity in an age bereft of former virtue and glory? Among many other questions. As J.R.R. Tolkien wrote in his essay on Beowulf, Beowulf portrays the image of the human being at war with the hostile world and his inevitable overthrow in time. And many students find that Beowulf speaks of the enduring concerns of memory, the search for security, reckoning with loss, and legacy as well. So as a poem, Beowulf is remarkable for its artistry. The anonymous poet, we don't know who the original poet was, but they were clearly a skilled court poet who shaped inherited tales into a work of unity. And its structure balances youth and age, triumph and downfall. And Beowulf's first victories over Grendel and his mother mirror his final fatal struggle with the dragon at the end. And its style depends on dramatic speeches, digressions, vivid and sparing imagery, beautifully evocative descriptions called kinnings, and a rhythm that is enchanting and exhilarating. I mean, there really is a rhythm, and I'll read some portions of the Old English original so you can get a sense for that rhythm, but Heaney's translation preserves those rhythms beautifully. The poet, whoever he was also clearly a person of learning who joined together the pagan heroic past with his Christian present audience, and it really makes a unique vision. This is very much the product of a culture in transition, Beowulf, because the Anglo-Saxons, the early inhabitants of England, were in part reconciling with their pagan culture. They were reconciling their pagan culture with their recent Christianized identity, and you can see that at work in the beauty of the poem as well. And there are times when the poem verges into the North Germanic pagan, and other times where it seems to be leaning into its Christian inheritance. Although it's very interesting, there are no references to the New Testament. All of the biblical references are to the Old Testament. And we'll talk about why that might be. But for many years, scholars treated this poem chiefly as a historical document, a source for Germanic legend or a record of pagan antiquity. Critics quarried the fragments about kings, battles, lineage, customs, but as Tolkien insisted, as a scholar of Anglo-Saxon, Beowulf is more than a historical artifact. It's also a work of art, meaning that it has its own aesthetic unity and coherence. And that's part of how we're going to be examining Beowulf as a literary poem, as a text, as a unified whole as well. Now, this course invites you to study Beowulf as poetry. We will read the poem closely. We'll attend to its structure, its style, its unity, and we will consider how it works as poetry, not simply as a history or a myth, although those elements are certainly interesting and will come into the discussion. We'll also explore why it continues to speak across centuries. And along the way, we will examine critical debates as well. We'll be reading a little bit of secondary material. The folks on Versed have enjoyed some of the critical essays we read alongside the poetry. So we'll be doing a bit more of that in this course as well. And you're welcome to read the secondary material or simply ignore it if you prefer. By the end of the course, though, you will not only know Beowulf's story and the whole arc of this poem, but you will hear its music. You will understand its power and understand a little bit about why it stands as the greatest surviving poem before Chaucer. The lectures will help with this. The Q&A after the lectures are going to help. The discussion is going to be rich. The discussion prompts will ask you to engage creatively with the poem, so not just academically. One exercise is going to invite you all to compose a couple of lines of your own in the Anglo-Saxon style, so with a caesura, with alliteration, maybe on a heroic theme of something you see in nature. Haven't figured out what, but something to engage creatively with the poetic so you really understand how it works. And those who want will have a chance to share those poems in the chat, and we'll talk about it in discussion. So if you want to study Beowulf as a unified work of poetry in a way that will fit into your busy schedule, this course is for you. I hope you'll join us on Versed. I look forward to seeing you. A link to that can be found in the description below. Thanks for watching. Hope to see you there.